Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Crypto Scoop FM. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours. Nobody could have predicted, actually many did, that America is going to attack Iran, and they did. And in a limited military strike using the B-2 stealth bomber, they decimated 3 nuclear sites in Iran. And the result? Bloodbath on on the crypto street. Bitcoin briefly dipped below 100k after I think weeks of staying above 102, 103k, and overall Ethereum is also down about 5%, and BitTensor, our favorite TAO, is down double digits in the last 2 days, almost 20%. But that's not what I want to talk about. I'm going to briefly cover some overview on TAO. But this episode is special because in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the whole dual token thing, right? Where you have a lot of different projects which have a subnet alpha token on one side, but they also have these other ERC20 tokens or an SPL token either on Solana or Base. And so I wanted to dive into these dual token models and see what's beneficial for us as an investor. Should we also position ourselves into these dual tokens, these ERC20 tokens, which are powered by an underlying subnet, or maybe even not? Or should we just continue playing and diversifying ourselves into the BitTensor subnet alpha tokens? So we're going to cover that. I'm going to share alpha about all of these different tokens, what they're doing. I will also talk about the CreativeBit V2 ecosystem, which is so closely mingled with all of the stuff that is happening on BitTensor. And so this is going to be a packed episode, guys. And with that, I'm going to share my screen and dive in. Now, before I jump in, I want to make sure that you understand there's a quick disclaimer that nothing that I talk about today should be construed as investment advice, legal advice, or life advice. Crypto is inherently risky. Everything that I'm going to talk about today could potentially go to zero. So please do your own research. Now, with that, let's dive in. Okay, guys, let me share my screen and we jump in. All right. So first up, I want to show you a list of these dual tokens that exist. And I spent some time researching on each of them, and I have compiled a list here on CoinGecko. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these different dual token models, which are not subnet alpha tokens, but are in some way, shape, or form connected to the BitTensor ecosystem, either offering some kind of agentic solution or trying to build a DeFi solution in and around it, or essentially just trying to use BitTensor to offer an inference service on chain and stuff like that. So we're going to go through all of these tokens. And then we're going to also talk about the CreativeBit ecosystem, because these CreativeBit ecosystem coins also fall into the dual token bucket. And we'll look at these tokens and we'll try and understand where they stand in the overall mathematics around the alpha tokens and TAO in general. But before we jump into all of this, nice alpha scoop, let's first talk about what has happened in the markets. And, before talking about TAO, before looking at the chart itself, I want to show you this really cool post by Cobie. And he asked, if you have to buy a liquid non-venture crypto for 3 to 5 years time horizon, and you're not allowed to buy a Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperliquid, or Solana, or whole stable coins, what do you buy and why? Right? So he asks this question. And I highly recommend that you go through this tweet, guys. I think it's a goldmine of very interesting projects. So I'm going to leave a link to this post by Cobie down below in my video. Definitely check it out and study, and also respond. Like, tell us, which of your coins, which projects, which coins do you find really interesting that you would want to hold in 2030, 2032, 2035, right? But coming back to this, when Cobie asked this question, it was earlier today, Barry Silbert, who's a big TAO bull, who's also the founder and CEO of Yuma Group. If you remember Yuma, Yuma is essentially trying to accelerate BitTensor by trying to create the products, services, and the institutional infrastructure necessary for Wall Street for accredited investors to start investing not just in the TAO token, but also get meaningfully engaged in with the Subnet Alpha tokens. So he responded to Cobie's post by saying that build a portfolio of subnet tokens on BitTensor, and he links to Gecko Terminal, and he says they're liquid, sort of, they're non-venture, they're non-obvious, and they're great for a 3 to 5 year bet if you can diversify. So guys, despite all of the craziness that is happening, I wanted to bring this chart up, and I wanted to give you confirmation that everything that is happening in the space today, geopolitically, might sound extremely painful, might sound like the end of the world, or I don't know, like a World War III predictions and those kind of things. But it's very clear how people with deep pockets who can actually influence the markets with their presence, with their network, and with their capital remain bullish. And Barry Silbert is one of the biggest BitTensor bulls. After staying out of the market for like almost 5 years, he's now back and he's playing the game. And this only gives me a lot of confidence that, okay, TAO is here to stay. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is what happened in the crypto markets. As Iran threatened to choke off global oil flow, they earlier today they passed a mandate in the parliament to essentially choke the oil route that goes through Iran. And that to me is indicative of what might happen, if they do end up going through it, because after the parliament, it actually goes to the supreme leader. And if the supreme leader agrees, they will basically close the Strait of Hormuz, which is where 20% of the global oil trade passes through. So if that happens, we're going to see a steep rise in global oil prices. And if that happens, God only knows how it will impact inflation. And if inflation goes up, the whole Trump dream of cutting the federal funding rate, the Federal Reserve rate, and to pump more liquidity in the market is gone. And that this could essentially mean a drawdown in the equity markets, the bond markets, and of course the crypto markets more so, because the price of Bitcoin is so highly correlated to the M2 money supply, the liquidity, the leverage, and all of that can change, right? But will that happen? What is the probability of this happening? I personally feel like closing the Strait of Hormuz is kind of a long shot, because it does not only impact global oil prices, it also impacts many of Iran's close allies. And on top of that list is, of course, China, where almost 50% or more, or maybe 70%, if I'm not wrong, of their oil imports come through the Strait of Hormuz. So if there is any closure or any impact there, it's very much possible that you will see China kind of jumping into the picture and trying to solve this problem as quickly as possible. And I also feel like Tehran is in kind of a corner right here, because on one end, a lot of their ordnance, their missile factories, all of them has been destroyed, and it's very difficult for them to get access to new weapons, and their stockpile of weapons is also going down. So they would probably not want to extend this far, and so when that happens, oil prices would reverse. And if oil prices reverse, we should see the sentiment around a rate cut coming back in. And already in the recent, Federal Reserve meeting, while they did not cut any rate, and they also scared the public by talking about stagflation, which is this weird scenario where inflation is going up and growth is slipping. And that to me is extremely concerning for the US economy entering into stagflation. But honestly, It might happen because of the entire tariff route, and if it does, we could see an extended period of no rate cuts. But I do feel like Fed is kind of going overboard with this idea that there could be a quote unquote stagflation. I think the U.S. economy is doing pretty well right now. The growth rate has returned. GDP is going up. Inflation is coming down, and if they're able to control this situation, I don't see any reason why we won't see at least one rate cut. And if we do see at least one rate cut, there is every probability that in the end of this year, or maybe in the first or second quarter of next year, we'll see a massive, movement of liquidity into Bitcoin, and from Bitcoin into alts, and the glorious alt season will return. So that's some commentary on the state of the market. Of course, this chart, it breaks my heart because for me, TAO is not just a financial investment. For me, TAO is the vision of decentralized AI and the vision of freedom around AI, the freedom of to choose, the freedom to participate, the freedom to own a piece of this rapidly important technology, which, I always say to my friends, like, AI is the seminal technology of our times, and unfortunately, there's like 5 companies who are controlling the guardrails for how AI is created, how it is distributed, and that's kind of a concern to me. So, in any case, in the last 2 days alone, as you can already see, the price of TAO token has dropped by almost 20 odd percent. So, this I'm sorry, I took the wrong measurement, but from 20th, if we look at from 28th, which is right here, right? So from this point onwards, it has dropped by roughly 17%, which is a steep drop. And, if I kind of go broader to the chart, this red line was essentially the support point, right? This is where the price has had multiple support and in the chart in previous time factors as well, at this point as well. And if I kind of zoom out and show you what's happening, it's clear it's folded quite a bit, and it's kind of approaching these levels, which was where the last kind of accumulation happened, and there was a bunch of different support of at least 4 different range where they had support. So I think if this continue, we can see further pullback in the TAO token, and we'll see the price kind of falling down to maybe even 270, 260, 270 levels. And worst case, it could fall down all the way to 220 as well. I see very little probability of the TAO token kind of falling to 170. But yes, if this does become a prolonged war, if this becomes a prolonged issue in the global geopolitical space, then definitely we're going to see more and more bearish outlook, and the price could essentially fall to 170. Now, how would I play this out? I think for me, these are all dips to buy, because when I think about it, the world 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, look, nobody can predict a World War III. In all honesty, nuclear weapons are essentially for deterrence, not to actually use them, because everybody has seen those videos from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they understand the concerns around it. And I'm not hawkish at all. I'm extremely bullish humanity, and though yes, I concede that we have made many mistakes and that we have our own egos to deal with, and so do these massive big leaders. I do think it will take a lot more than just using a few bunker busting missiles to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities to push this entire war into the point where you have now a global world war where Russia, China, India, the European Union, NATO, all of these people are involved. I see that kind of almost far-fetched at this point. So I'm confident, guys. I'm going to continue accumulating at 290. I'm going to continue accumulating at 270 or 220. And if it hopefully dips down to 170, then I'm going to buy a huge bag, because for me, the story of BitTensor doesn't change, as Barry Silbert has already pointed out. All right, guys. So, with that, I want to now quickly jump into the state of our portfolio. over the last couple of weeks, I have constantly covered different subnets. And, if this were an index, a notional tau index, which included, whose constituents included all of these different subnets that we have covered in our previous videos. If you have not seen them yet, here's a link to one of them. Please explore my channel and go through the previous videos where I dive deeper into each of these subnets, what they do, what is the product, and why I think they are interesting opportunities in the space. So, absolute cracker of annihilation to this index. If you look closely, I first covered subnet 62 ridges on the 5th of June, when the price of ridges was $4.35. Today it's trading at $1.55, lost 65%. Sounds right is down 30%. We've lost all of our gains on Gaia and hash tensor, and so we were almost up 180% on Gaia, maybe about 50 odd percent in hash tensor, and we're now come back to the original price. So we're at a no profit, no loss situation with these coins, which, by the way, I think is a great entry point again on especially on Gaia, because what Gaia is building is going to be an incredible weather prediction model, and that model will be able to do cracker loads of predictions for weather, for soil moisture, and this has incredible enterprise use cases. So I'm extremely bullish Gaia. In fact, this is one of my top subnets to bet on. Now, Hippias is down 45%, TensorProx is down 61%. So you can already see that all of them have large double-digit pullbacks. So this is kind of interesting to look at. It's also interesting for you to see this in two perspectives. The first perspective is everything is going crazy. Throw your, dump all of your alpha and run away, because it's never going to recover. The other way to think about this is, okay, are these buying opportunities into some of these fundamentally strong projects? And I'm in camp 2 squarely. So, I'm gonna double down on Hippias, which I think is a great technology to enable decentralized storage. I think Gaia is a great product. I'll continue to accumulate ridges because I think the future is these smart, intelligent software engineering agents, which will manage the entire code base end to end. I'm going to continue diving into decentralized AI training, into decentralized prediction markets, decentralized computer vision, score, autonomous DEF AI agents that can be built using Sturdy, which is again down 25%. So guys, look at this as, one of those discount sales which happen in those like large malls and bigger stores. I think this is these pullbacks are giving you an opportunity to enter into the BitTensor subnet alpha ecosystem at a great price point. So remember that, guys. Yeah. Okay. So that's what we've seen in terms of the story so far. I now want to take a turn and leave you with this message around how do you long term think about BitTensor. Right. And Joseph Jacques, who is the founder of OSS Capital, which is a venture fund, heavily invested in the BitTensor ecosystem, also the founder of Latent Holdings, which is this company which is building subnet 14, which is Tau Hash, which is one of the top subnets on the BitTensor ecosystem. And his post got me thinking, and I wanted to share it with you. Where he says that learning from continuous experience is the key to scaling artificial intelligence to artificial super intelligence and beyond. And what will this require? This will require different algorithms, a new software architecture, new chips, new hardware architectures for those chips, new material science to make those chips on different substrates, new energy sources, likely new ways to tap into solar energy, and new almost anything. This is all super expensive. It will require a lot of money, a lot of capital, and any single company cannot organize or coordinate that kind of capital. And this is why BitTensor's incentive mechanisms are so important, because these mechanisms unlock the language of value for value across a permissionless ledger. The language has already produced outputs that the world that would have required otherwise $1 billion in capex and opex to deliver using conventional method. Tens of thousands of GPUs, 1% the hash rate of Bitcoin in 30 days, largest 3D asset library. Guys, these are things that has already happened on BitTensor. Right, first to ship and fastest improving decentralized training with Templar and IOTA. So we can already see that a lot of this is happening, right? And so he predicts that subnets would be able to harness trillions in funding and distribute the rewards fairly across billions of people who will contribute to progress on the incentives collectively. This is exactly what I talk about. When you think about BitTensor, you should not think about BitTensor as an AI project. You should think about BitTensor as this distributed and coordinated incentive engine. And you can use the incentives, you can design the incentives to produce anything of value to humanity. And that to me is the biggest story, is the biggest insight. And that story doesn't change, guys. That insight doesn't change. So keep that in mind when you think about what's happening with the TAO ecosystem right now. How do you think about the price drop that has happened? How do you think about a lot of these projects that are seeing high double digit drawdowns, and position yourself accordingly? Now I want to talk about a few subnets that I see kind of propping up again and again on my X feed, which people are kind of bullish about. And two of them, which I think are very interesting, are Subnet 44 and Subnet 33. Now, Subnet 44, we build score. We've already spoken about this before. This is the one of the first computer vision models being built on top of the BitTensor subnet ecosystem. They also powered the DKing agent, which was launched on CreativeBit, currently valued at 17 million market cap, and incredibly predicting sports outcomes. So, I remain super bullish on Score. They've recently landed a $300 million contract to manage that money via DraftKings autonomous agent to go out there and invest in sports matches and essentially in the betting ecosystem, the sports betting ecosystem. So this is clearly the start. A lot of people are bullish. We've already seen, Score is down 25% from our initial entry at 12.45 at 9.32. I think this is a good price to enter and start diversifying. Their TAO emissions have also consistently increased. I think it's more than 2% now, and this gives you an interesting opportunity to not only farm alpha tokens and TAO, but also enter into this extremely good project at a good discount, right? Another one that caught my attention was Ready AI. Now, for folks who don't know what the Ready AI does, they're basically trying to create this data marketplace where they're trying to create a structured database for enabling AI models to have access to that data for the purposes of training and reinforcement learning. So they're essentially trying to create a data labeling service at scale, right? 51% more accurate than GPT-4o. And they're doing this on BitTensor Subnet 33. So guys, keep an eye on BitTensor Subnet. They also, by the way, recently launched the TAO agent, which is an AI co-pilot for everything BitTensor. I saw it, and people are already asking a lot of questions, tagging TAO agent on Twitter, and we can already see TAO agent essentially reply, like this guy asking, what signal would you consider as confirmation of a reversal across subnets? And TAO agent replies that reversal confirmations, what to watch, like sum of all the subnet prices. 1.443 drifting lower, no higher low yet. Subnet price structure, nearly all alphas at or near 60-day lows. Volume, negative by volume is dominating. Liquidity. So it is giving you all of this like real-time data on what's happening on the BitTensor subnet alpha ecosystem. Check it out, follow TAO agent, see how it's performing. I think this is incredible to see, and I think Subnet 33 Ready AI is doing something really special. Now, finally, if you look at the ecosystem the last 24 hours, there has been a mixed bag. right? You have a bunch of these different projects which are up like double digit and even like high triple digit. Neural 3D is up almost 150% in the last 24 hours. Vericore is up 130%. Street Vision is up about 80%, right? TAO private network is up 40. DP is up 30, and then you also have like these projects that we spoke of that have lost double digits. So clearly, people are still buying. There is this speculative activity which will continue to happen, and you will see in pockets a lot of these different subnets kind of just going berserk. But overall, the story of TAO remains intact. Don't worry about these day-to-day moves. Find the ones which have a strong fundamental business model, that are building things that are important to create high-quality, decentralized artificial intelligence technologies, and back them, guys. That's the story here. Now, I want to jump in and talk about a different opportunity. Now, if you look at the broader BitTensor ecosystem, on one part you have, these 70, 80, 100 odd active subnets. And for each subnet, after the creation of Dynamic TAO, they automatically created the subnets token, which are called the alpha tokens. Now that's one part of the ecosystem. But there is another part of the ecosystem where you have, a whole set of different coins, crypto tokens, which have been launched, which are not necessarily directly connected to the BitTensor subnet or the alpha token. There are instances when you have a dual token model, meaning there is an ERC20 token, but of the subnet, which also has an alpha token. And so the question then comes, how do we think about these alternate, dual token models or tokens which are not directly connected to any given subnet or do not have an alpha token, but they are directly somehow related to the BitTensor ecosystem. So in today's video, I'm going to drop some alpha and insights into some of the ones that I'm looking, what has happened to them in the last couple of weeks, and how should we be positioning ourselves beyond the subnet alpha token ecosystem into these alternate but BitTensor aligned coins. Now, top of them is DKing or DKing. This is the one which is directly correlated to Subnet 44, which is Score Vision. And you can already see that while Score Vision is down almost 25% in the last we started tracking this on the 12th of June. So in 10 days, this is down 25%. But DKing, on the other hand, is up almost 37% in the last 24 hours. This is primarily because of all the interest that is happening on CreativeBit. And this is a great example of one of those, dual tokens, token situations where there is a subnet alpha token and there is a project token for an agent that is built on top of that subnet using the inference of that subnet. And there is tremendous interest in that coin. And DKing, by the way, guys, full disclosure, is a big part of my portfolio. I remain bullish on DKing. I think they have their recent success in locking in $300 million for autonomous betting is huge. I also saw recently the news of them expanding beyond football, which is what they currently, train their model on, to other sports as well. So they're expanding into basketball, NBA. They're expanding into rugby, NFL. They're expanding into cricket, and they would soon expand into other games as well. So we can already see the size of the global sports betting industry anyways is hundreds of billions of dollars. And so by expanding that product beyond football gives them an incredible opportunity. And this also gives me the signal that their product works, that there is product market fit, and now they're looking at growth, which is great, guys. By the way, there was also this news that they're going to buy a football club very, very soon, which is kind of exciting if you think about it. Now, the next one that I want to talk about is neural AI. And, I was quickly trying to compare, neural AI with their, counterpart subnet alpha token. And so neural essentially is built on top of neural 3D, which is subnet 46. And you can already see that while neural has started to kind of neural is down almost 20%, which is the dual token, the subnet alpha token is only down 11%. So clearly the reflexivity of Neural, the ERC20 token, is a lot more than the subnet alpha token. I think this is a function of largely because there's been a lot of movement on the ERC20 token side of things. But you can already see the reversal that has happened, right? It hit a rock bottom of almost like 1.6, and since then, let me just draw this again for you guys. So since then, it is already up 4% in the last in the last like 90 minutes or so, versus subnet 46, which has seen a continuous drawdown, while this was mostly at an accumulation phase, and we saw this drop happen. Right, we can see that this is perpetually kind of seen a massive kind of drawdown happen in the last couple of days. So again, I think these are interesting opportunities to explore. I personally feel like both in terms of volumes, the access to attention, ERC20 tokens for now are maybe better opportunities. But if you have a long-term outlook, I think there is merit to considering each as a unique component or as a unique product. Is it worth buying the underlying alpha token versus buying the agent token or the product token built on top? It totally depends on what that product does, how important it is. Is there a clear utility, clear value map? And like for in DKing's instance, there is. So is the case with Neural. So this could just give you that opportunity to kind of double down and ride both. Same goes with Aeon, guys. Aeon is built on top of Subnet 6, which is Infinity Games. You can see that Aeon is down almost 22% of the day, while in the last like couple of days, 24 hours, I'm sorry, while Subnet 6 Infinity Games is only down 12%. Again, lesser flexibility in comparison to ERC20, which is what I spoke about. Then comes Sturdy, which has their own token, which is down 10%, while the Subnet Alpha token is down 12%. So in this case, the Sturdy Subnet Alpha token is a little more reflexive in comparison, but it is, as you can see, they're like pretty close, right? So very close resemblance. AIT protocol, which is down 10%, versus its counterpart Subnet 35, which is LogicNet, which powers AIT, is down almost 13%. So more reflexive than the ERC20 token. And then the last one that I want to look at is Tatsu, which is down almost 13.5%, versus Doc Insights, which is the subnet on top of it Tatsu is built, is down 13.6%. So we can see many of them move really closely, while some of them are extremely divergent, which is interesting because there's no clear pattern, right? It seems to me that the bad news that has happened in the market has kind of had this pullback effect across, but I think many of them are interesting. Like in my instance, I think DKing with an agent which is managing your capital autonomously and doing sports prediction and betting and making money is an incredible product if it works. I think Neural, for me, the underlying Neural 3D subnet is more important than Neural AI, which is kind of building this AI inference layer where you can, it's pretty much like building, a text to image model where you can prompt and get an image generated, versus the underlying model is Neural 3D, which essentially acts as the underlying platform. So there is going to be a lot of value capture that's going to happen at the app layer as well, while there is utility to holding the infrastructure layer. So again, it totally depends on the story. If you think there's going to be more value capture at the app layer, go for it. I personally think app layer in AI is going to capture humongous value, as early evidence with many of these small AI teams in Web2, which have built an AI product on top of an existing model or an AI layer, whether it is Meta's Llama models or any of these open AI models. They build their products on top of them and already making like 2 million, 4 million ARR. So I think many of these products will generate revenue. And if there is very clear utility of that revenue being captured by the Neural token, it's worth looking at this ecosystem as well. So Finally, I want to quickly talk about an evolving opportunity that is happening across the CreativeBit ecosystem. Now, CreativeBit recently announced their version 2, which is basically a very closely resembling meta, that kind of resembles all of the stuff that Virtuals has already done. So Virtuals protocol, guys, if you don't know, is an agent launchpad on Base and Solana. CreativeBit similarly is also an agent launchpad, which is currently live on Base and BNB chain, which is the chain backed by Binance. And they have a pretty similar model. They want to drive attention and energy from agent builders to launch an agent on chain, and then launch their token to raise money and like give early investors access. I think the meta with CreativeBit is quite simple. You have a ton of these different subnets. These subnets are building AI models and providing inference, and agents can tap into that decentralized inference to create new products and services. So imagine Subnet 44's core vision, and DKing is essentially powered by Subnet 44 Score Vision's underlying model. They're using it for its inference and for to generate those predictions around sports games. Aeon again is a prediction market agent built on top of Subnet 6 Infinity Games, which is essentially training LLMs to collect to make predictions on unique asymmetric questions, like what will be the price of Bitcoin by the end of 2025, will America invade Iran, those kind of questions. And they're basically training these LLMs to give predictions and a prediction score. Again, I think this is an incredible product, and Aeon is still a strong project here. Shogun is giving you real time InfoFi insights, like mind share and attention insights around different subnets. Michael Towler is essentially a Tau maxi. Like, think of it as like a forever yapper, which is what Michael Taylor is for Bitcoin. And so they've created this digital persona called Michael Towler, who is going to just yap on Twitter and amplify BitTensor, all of these different subnets. So is there value to this kind of yapping? If yes, this presents an interesting opportunity. Then next you have Coach Bucko, which is kind of building an AI agent to deliver fantasy football alpha. Again, I think a lot of these different, they're powered by various BitTensor subnets, a combination of Sleeper API, Grok 3. So we're going to see like these kind of projects kind of come about as well. They are also, by the way, supported by Shogun DAO, and currently about 630,000 bit tokens have endorsed this project, and it's only trading at about $120,000 market cap, right, guys? So it's pretty much nothing. You've already seen like there has been a pullback after it raised quite a bit. But then another one is Omen, which is again an AI agent which will be powered by multiple Tau subnets. You can see it's up and to the right only because it has just recently launched, and at a current market cap of 180K, there is a lot of interest in the community to kind of get early into many of these subnet powered agents. Finally, you also have Cow, which is also, it was launched sometime between BitTensor 10th and 11th halvening. So it's kind of one of those, story-driven alpha plays. Again, I don't really know what it does, but you can already see like 316,000 bids have endorsed this project. And they have a market cap of 230K. I actually made a sweet 3x because I bought it somewhere around here and exited around this point in time. So I think and then finally you have Oat, which is like Const, who is the founder of BitTensor. He is an evil fork of Const, right? And he's leaking subnet intel. So again, very similar to Towler, kind of drawing and sharing insights into the BitTensor ecosystem. The reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is because I think with the CreativeBit ecosystem, there is an incredible opportunity to not only farm the BIT token, which is the native network token of CreativeBit, but this is also an opportunity to get access to many of these subnet powered subnet powered dual tokens. And it will be interesting because if we think about BitTensor from the mental model of, okay, these are all backends, and these backends will provide inference as a service, or data as a service, or compute as a service to a range of AI applications, with agents being an important like chunk of these applications, then whatever happens to all of these different projects is extremely, exceedingly interesting to kind of capture. Of course, because of the pullback, we can already see many of them are down like 20 to 50% almost, which presents an interesting asymmetric entry points. Not only that, because CreativeBit is kind of going through this whole CreativeBit V2, there is an opportunity to farm a lot of tokens, like get access to bid emissions, upcoming token airdrops, and a lot more different incentives. So keep an eye on BitTensor. I think it's on CreativeBit. I think these dual tokens, long story short, offer a unique and compelling opportunity in many cases. Not all of them will do well. You have to do your own research, you have to do your diligence. But I think with projects like Neural, with projects like DKing and Aeon, I'm fairly confident of the product that they are building and the utility that we're able to showcase to the world about BitTensor. And so, yeah, that's all the alpha that I wanted to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and share this video with your friends if you find it interesting. I'll see you again with a new video soon. With that, sayonara.